All right, Cade. So we're on the same page here that Cam Ward is going to go number 1 overall.
I believe so, Colin.
Yeah, we haven't heard a thing about it, and if you haven't heard a thing about it, it means they're all set. Now, the interesting one that you're sold on, I believe, is Travis Hunter to Cleveland.
I do think that one's kind of in the books.
Yeah, Andrew Berry, the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, basically talked about how they'd utilize him, and he was pretty forthcoming in the analysis of it. It was pretty inviting.
Yeah,
he was
I've got the sound
if
you want to listen to it real quick.
Let's listen to Andrew Berry talking about the prospect of playing Travis Hunter.
What he would attempt to do has not, been really done in our league. But we wouldn't necessarily put a cap or a governor in terms of like what he could do. We would want to be smart in terms of how we started him out. I think I've mentioned before, we would see his first home as receiver and his second home, on the defense side of the ball.
I mean, that kind of sounds like there's already a plan in place for him, let alone just drafting him in the first place.
Now, that's general manager Andrew Berry of the Cleveland Browns on the prospect of playing Travis Hunter. He is pro wide receiver 1, cornerback 2, Eileen the other side. But I think every team's going to have a different solution to utilize his talent. So, all right. So you think Cleveland, I think it's going to be him, or I think it's going to be the edge guy, Abdul Carter out of Penn State. Now, the Giants, let's do the top 3, and then we'll do the surprise stuff. Giants, are they going to surprise you on Thursday?
They shouldn't, but it's the Giants we're talking about here. This is Abdul Carter.
This is the most desperate team in the NFL. The most desperate team. So keep that in mind.
Very true. Okay, I'll say it this way. I won't be surprised if something happens. They shouldn't do anything crazy. It should just be Abdul Carter, move on.
Really?
Yes.
Stack up that defensive line is going to be good.
Yes.
They're going to have Thibodeau. They're going to have Brian Burns. They're going to have Abdul Carter and Dexter Lawrence. Behind the Eagles, that is the best defensive line in football.
You're saying, like everyone's been saying, and you saw the shirt on Chris Canty last week on Unsportsmanlike, which you can also listen or watch on the ESPN app. He had the Awful for Arch shirt already on before the draft. So that's what I think Giants Nation is hoping for. Abdul Carter, beef up the defense. Go get, if it's not Archie Manning, there's other good quarterbacks in next year's draft that are better than this year's draft, right? So your quarterback comes in next year.
And then you got to stay above water this year, hope to keep your job, and then focus on a quarterback next year.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
All right. I think I could see a surprise out of them. I do not think they will get a quarterback. Travis Hunter is there. I think they're going to run to the podium.
Yes.
But you're right. I lean on the side of this is either going to be offensive line or an edge guy. I do not think a trade back is a conservative move, and I think that would piss off a lot of fans if all of a sudden the most desperate and the most we need a breath of life team now would trade back, unless it was a no-brainer trade back move. All right, so that's the top 3. NFL draft this Thursday, round 1 at Lambeau Field. Cade, the most important pick, I guess, of that early part of the first round impactful is what I'm getting at. This pick would alter the course of the draft. What would that be to you?
It's going to be the Raiders at 6, in my opinion.
Because what direction would change what?
So, surprising everyone and going quarterback would change a lot, because then you have the Saints at 9 who are thinking about, so let's just say it's going to be Shador. If they pick anyone, it's going to be Shador, which I wouldn't necessarily mind too much, sitting behind Geno, learning from Pete Carroll and Tom Brady, because you got to know Tom Brady's going to chat to him too. So I don't necessarily mind it. I don't think that's what they should do, but I don't mind it. But if that does happen, then you've got the Saints sitting there at 9 who need a quarterback. You've got the Steelers at 21 who could use a quarterback. There's a lot of other teams that were waiting for Shador to drop to them. Like, he wasn't supposed to be at number 6. Then there's also offensive tackle. Now, there's a plethora of offensive linemen in this draft, but there's definitely some more needy teams right behind the Raiders that would love their hands on the top 3 guys. So that would be interesting. And then you've got running back, which from what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, that's the most likely option for the Raiders right now would be Ashton Genty at 6. But if that happens, you've got the Bears at 10 who could use a running back. You've got the Cowboys at 12 who could use a running back. There's a few other teams that would like to hold off and not necessarily have to trade up into the top 5, because that's the other thing too. If whoever the Raiders take, if anyone else wanted one of those guys behind them, you'd have to trade up into the top 5. And I don't know about you, Colin, but I don't see, outside of the Giants and maybe the Patriots, it's going to be tough to get into that top 5 this year.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say is you mentioned the Bears at 10. I think the Bears would be foolish not to go anywhere else other than offensive line. I know they got 3 new interior guys. You just have to.
Okay.
You have to. You don't let your rookie quarterback get sacked 7 times and the 9 of the top offensive line of the top 10 offensive lines in football all made the postseason. If there is going to be, and Ben Johnson of all people knows how much easier life is when you have 3 All-Pros sitting in front of you on the offensive line. I think they're probably going to go offensive line there. In terms of important pick, we alluded to it. I think if the Giants were to surprise you and go get a quarterback, I think it changes up a lot of priorities in the rest of that draft. Because now the Jets were quietly sitting there having to make a decision. What are the Jets going to do? Because if they make a trade with the Saints, they're at 7. The Saints are at 9. Both those teams can use a quarterback. It's not necessarily imperative, but if somebody is there that they like, Jackson, Dart, or whoever, they could do that. Now, are the Jets, if Shedeur Sanders gets taken at 3, all of a sudden, the Saints are probably changing up their playbook. The Jets are probably changing up their playbook. The Steelers probably are changing up their playbook a little bit. That's an impactful pick if they're going to surprise people.
Yeah.
I think the Giants are in the driver's seat to make this interesting. And I think if they don't, I think the rest of that top 5 or top 6, like you said, will probably be a little chalky if there's a way to put it. Then it gets interesting with the Saints and the Jets and how they're going to handle 7 and 9. All right, Cade, is there going to be a trade up?
I don't think so. But if there is, I'm going to say it's the Saints going for Shedeur. Whether that be up to 3, up to 6, up to 5.
Maybe the Jets don't want to play ball. They want Shedeur too. Maybe they jump up to 5. Yeah, trade with Jacksonville.
Yep. So I think the Saints would do it more than the Jets, because I think the Jets, if the Saints move up, then the Jets are going to be chilling with whatever. Because it's interesting that you said the Bears are the ones that desperately need the offensive line. I think that's the Jets. I don't even think you touch quarterback if you're the Jets right now. I think you just seriously boost that offensive line. Say that, hey, you got Justin Fields for a reason. You got rid of Aaron Rodgers for a reason. I don't think you take Justin Fields and draft a quarterback.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. And I have been a Justin Fields lover for a long time. I think he got done dirty in Chicago and then didn't necessarily get the full chance in Pittsburgh.
They don't have an insurance option if he doesn't work out, if he stinks.
That's
Keep
true.
that in mind.
That's 100% true. Then you have next year's draft is what I'm saying. Right.
And there's no pressure on them right now.
You can just be a decent defense. You're not getting rid of Aaron Glenn anytime soon. So there's not the whole get rid of your quarterback and not your head coach kind of a deal. I don't think that dynamic would necessarily work.
The one
either.
thing I'll say is they do have a good roster. They got 2 good young running
They've
backs.
had one.
And they got Garrett Wilson who's sitting there. They have a talent all over the place on defense. Part of me thinks, I know they just lost DJ Reed, but part of me thinks that, all right, well, if this is not a rebuild period, it is, but it's not. The Jets are closer to relevance than I think people want to give them credit for based on how that roster is constructed. But you're right. That's an important pick. So you think the Saints are going to trade up? Do you think the Steelers
if they would? No. I don't think the Saints are going to trade up because I don't think Shedeur goes in the top 8. But if they hear something like the Raiders or the Giants, or if somebody else is willing, or even the Jets, I'm not going to say the Jets are completely out of the Shedeur race, but the Saints, if they get too ambitious, because I think Shedeur goes to the Saints if he's there at 9. I think they need him. I think he'd be great for that team. I think he'd be great for that city. Shedeur in New Orleans in that dome sounds great to me. But if they hear something, then they would be the ones to trade up.
All right. I could see Pittsburgh trying to make a move. I could see, not drastic. You can't go from 21 to 10. It's just, you can't do it. It's unfathomable, the amount of capital you'd have to give up. But if they're willing to go from 21 to 15, 21 to 14, if there's another quarterback needy team that's sort of lurking in the shadows, or if there's if they're looking to get another offensive piece or a huge player, I could see the Steelers being aggressive in the early part of the draft. Now, the Bengals are at 17. I could see them trading back. They need assets. They need a lot of pieces on defense. That is going to be a volume over quality thing. They just need players. So I could see that being an option. I don't know who they'd want to leapfrog. Tampa Bay, Denver, and Seattle are all sitting there. They all got quarterbacks figured out. But you never know. There might be another team lurking. It might turn into a leapfrog battle. That would be a trade up for me other than the Saints if the Steelers were willing to move up 6-7 picks to go get a big-time player. Or the Packers, for that matter, if they're looking to get a wide receiver. Packers are
boy,
picking
do they need one.
The Packers are picking at 23. It's not the Packers' style. to trade up, but they need a receiver and they need a corner. So I'm curious and see where they're going to go. All right. We've alluded to it. Shedeur Sanders, you're on the Saints here?
I think so, yeah.
At 9.
Yeah, at 9. I think he waits that long.
I don't think he makes it till then.
Interesting.
So I think whoever is going to have that 7th overall pick, he will be gone.
Okay.
So I think he will be gone not at that 7, either before or he'll be gone by 7. So whether that's the Jets or somebody else will trade up and get him.
Nice.
So that would be quarterbacks don't last. Quarterbacks don't drop. It doesn't happen all that often. Quarterbacks hang around. I mean, quarterbacks get off the board quick. You operate quickly when there's a quarterback available. Whether you don't think he's that good, fine. But he's the second best quarterback in this draft, and there's a lot more than only 2 quarterback needy teams. I would say that these guys rarely drop. If anything, they're reached for. Somebody will make a move if he is flirting at 7 or 8.